Hello and welcome to Shy Talk, an Irish history podcast. This episode's already late, so I'm not going to do a long intro. This is an episode about Edward Carson. We did the Edward Carson story as a live episode up in the Sunflower in Belfast, but we couldn't record it at the time, so we went back up and redid it there the other week with Darren Matthews, who's yet another talented comic that we've convinced to come on this show. There'll be links to his social media in the description of this episode, as well as links to the last 2 shows that we have in this run of shows. We'll be in the Dundalk Gaol on Friday the 13th of May, talking about the 1922 jailbreak. And then we'll be having our 100th episode birthday anniversary bonanza with Donal Fallon on the 19th of May in the Wild Duck in Temple Bar. Tickets for those will be in the links to this. So think about that when you're listening to this week's episode about Edward Henry Carson.
Gather around now, you're in for a story. Old tales of lore, all in search of a glory. The history and mystery of lads, lasses and all. Discoveries and voyages, the rise and the fall. Follow me now as we go back in time. We trace the steps of Irish lineage to find. Joseph from Carlo and Kevin the dog. Guide you through the ways of Shine.
Oh yeah. We added it together seamlessly to make it feel like we all remembered stuff. Even this is probably the longest I've gone between writing a story and reading it. Usually I've written it like that week.
Write it and then straight into recording.
Yeah, pretty much, or like
Makes
within a
sense.
few days. But this was what? When were we up? A month ago? More?
Yep.
Yeah, what date was it? 17?
Early March? Late February? Fuck, I don't know.
I was going to say 17. It's definitely not 17. That's Paddy's Day.
Yeah.
So it's a good lineup tonight. Actually, I was looking at the Jerry
Yeah.
Staunton and Andrew Ryan and Ian Thompson.
Yeah.
Good gig.
Haven't
Jerry
seen-
Staunton's on it.
Yeah.
And Jerry Staunton, yeah, from Mayo. Yeah.
Yeah. I told you that like half an hour ago.
What's it there?
No, Jerry Staunton was on the lineup.
Oh, sorry. I didn't hear him. I heard you say Garmurn.
Yeah, you know what's happened now?
You got
I said the wrong
You got
person.
the date wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, you got the. Oh, you
I
got
said the wrong
you
person.
okay.
Yeah. In fairness, if you're going to mix up 2 names,
Staunton and Murray.
Gar and Jer, all I saw was G, and I was like, I know this man. I'd take it from here. G in 3 letters. I'm not even going to fucking read them. I can make a judgment call. Well, we're up in Belfast at the minute with our gracious host Darren Matthews. We're going to do a story that we recorded like a month and a half ago.
Something
Sorry,
like
we didn't record. We did it. Yeah.
Back before we knew how to do that.
Yes, yeah. There was too many leads and we said, fuck it, we'll just do this one for the people of Sunflower Belfast.
Too much confidence. We turned up with a bunch of microphones and leads and going, okay, this PA system that we've never seen before, or also we've never had to set one up before in our lives.
Yeah.
I'm sure if we just keep fiddling knobs and plugging things into different places, that'll work. Turns out, doesn't.
Didn't work.
And then you tried to set up the PA system?
And then the PA system, we plugged it in then.
Oh, I just meant after you'd done fiddling knobs and plugging things in. That's
We just tried to run off with it.
straight away.
We did that with Jordan Robinson. That was great. But we figured, why waste a good story? And you set up that gig for us and put us up that night.
And didn't even get to the gig.
And didn't even get to the gig because you were busy earning money.
But I did get a chicken curry at your gig.
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Double payment.
So if you're on the Patreon here, can you send these men more money so I don't have to keep feeding them?
Yeah,
or
yeah.
or,
Putting them
or
up.
chicken curries.
Or chicken curries. Just send a chicken curry.
Well, I'd say we'd probably just stick this up on the real one now.
Oh, that's pressure. Like, it's pressure to make this
So
good.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's very easy for you to make it a Patreon episode.
There's a couple of words you can use and we can't even edit them.
Fair enough.
But, well, yes, we're going to do the Edward Carson story.
Am I allowed to use the N word?
Yes.
Nuri?
Nordy? Yeah.
Okay,
Nordy.
No,
Yeah.
it's fine.
Uh,
I know this is audio only, but I could feel the sweat from Jason when I said
yeah.
Jason was like,
Yeah,
it wasn't
which-
like this when we were here last time. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah. So, yeah, Nordy's fine.
Nordy's-
Nordy will be used a lot, I'd imagine, during this.
Oh, yeah. And we'll, you've accidentally told the same anecdote about the Edward Carson man on every recording.
Because it was my favourite thing to...
Yeah, but it keeps coming up.
Yeah.
But it's on all the recordings we've done this month.
Have you been pulling them out?
No.
Or, no? Okay.
No, I just know it's there. It's because we're like an old married couple. Because I prompted you to do it twice. It's like, well, you tell them the Carson story.
Do the thing again. Do
the Carson story.
But have we told Darren?
No, that's what I mean. It's going to happen again.
Hey, Kevin, tell Darren the...
The day after we left.
So let me tell you what...
Oh, you dropped us off in
Yeah.
Kelly's?
Yes.
Yeah, and then we went over to...
No, we went down to Kelly's after.
Oh, yeah. What was the first part?
I dropped you off in Madden's.
Madden's, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and then you told us to go to Kelly's afterwards.
Yes.
Both
And we were
lovely
in
bars.
Kelly's. Yeah, great spot. We had a pizza and a pint. And this is... I was telling this story for days when I went back. Like, some dog that had been kicked around coming back to Dublin, just shocked at the service in Belfast. Because we bought 2 pints. And then we saw there was a deal where you get a pint and a pizza. And I was going up asking about the pizza. And she was like, fucking don't worry about it. We'll add that on to the pint you already got. And I was like, crying. Yeah. You'd never get that in Dublin. Maybe if you like, you definitely have to ask them. You'd have to ask them a few times. They'd be
Kev,
like,
back in Dublin,
maybe.
suggesting you rejoin the union.
Oh, yeah.
That's what Carson would have wanted.
So they'd have to call in the manager on his day off to
Oh,
get this
yeah,
approved.
yeah. Or they just go and stand in the kitchen and not talk to anyone for a minute and come back in and be like, oh, yeah, I suppose we can do that.
We're actually out of pizza.
Yeah.
We don't have any bread.
Yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to offering it right off the bat, she was like, that's no worries, we can retroactively put you in this deal. And I didn't want to leave. And we met a very nice man who had been just sitting there minding the pints, keeping the place taken over. And he asked us what we were doing then in Belfast. And we were like, oh, we were doing a show about Carson. And he was like, oh, Carson, he's buried in St. Anne's Cathedral. And I'm not proud of this now, but when I was about 6, 7, 8, like we should be walking through it every day. I'm not proud of it, but I pissed in his grave. And then we did what you're doing now, and we cracked up laughing. And then he had a little smile to imply that he kind of was proud of it.
Yeah.
He was
sort of trying to feel us out.
I don't believe you. About the pissing on the grave? No, about the not being proud about it.
Yeah. He was a fucking...
Yes.
No, about these
Yeah.
pints being added onto this pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They wouldn't do that for you in Dublin?
That man's not an alcoholic. He's just keeping a good run on the Guinness.
Oh, he's just
Keeping the lines clean.
quality assurance.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Well, he was up for a big day in the city going to watch a ska band.
he was.
Someone had given him a free ticket, so he was like, well, that means I'm going to go in on my own at the middle of the day and drink the head of myself.
Yep.
He no more made it to the ska band.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
him already.
Oh yeah. He was going to come down and see because I was coming back to the Empire like 4 days later. I was like, I'll see you there. He's like, yep, I'd say that, man. But I don't know if he thought we were apparitions. Or I think he forgot he was talking to us when he went up to the bar for another pint and came back down.
And he genuinely did, yeah.
Yeah,
He forgot
yeah.
he'd been talking to anyone. And then sat down, sure, it's yourselves.
How he's back up again. Yeah, this is.
Were you not here yesterday? That was the same date now. Still today.
We stopped off in Jonesboro on the way up, and the fella in the shop, he went in first, bought some crisps, and then I came up after him and bought the same crisps. He was like, fucking, I'm seeing double. He told us we should be a double act.
Yeah. And Kevin said, I wouldn't take the
wouldn't.
risk,
No,
to be honest now.
Yeah,
He's a
yeah.
bit of a loose cannon, to be honest. I'm actually bringing him up now just to let him loose like a puppy. He's going, be as racist as you want on the...
Keep saying the N word at live shows.
Yeah.
Calling people Nordies.
Yeah.
Can't be trusted.
Yeah, you just run loose on the Coleraine comedy scene. It'll put you way up north.
So I try to smell my way back home, but I just keep getting lost at Friar Tuck's.
It's not the same as Supermax, but it kind of is.
It kind of is. It's great.
It's a culture experience.
It is, yeah. It's
What-
mainly in Newry, or is it outside of Newry as well?
Oh, no. Started in Newry.
Hmm.
There's 2 of them in Newry. And then you can find them in other places that... Actually, other places that Carson would have loved.
Oh,
Armagh
yeah.
Town, Portadown. I think there's one in Lurgan. There's one in Banbridge. I'd loved all them. Be a big fan of the coleslaw chicken burger.
What's up with the coleslaw?
Yes, now that's a very Newry thing.
The coleslaw on a burger?
Coleslaw
No, but
as
it-
a side
Not
on
just
everything.
not just coleslaw on a burger. Coleslaw being 75% of the burger.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a friend of mine, and he points out it's not actually a chicken burger with coleslaw. It's a coleslaw burger with chicken.
With chicken, yeah, it's
Yeah,
incredible.
It's trademark dish.
Yeah.
So that's
We
that's
just
where you're getting
slide
the most
half of it on to the top of the chips,
Oh, it's
and all of
cracker
a
that
sudden,
way.
all of a sudden, you're having coleslaw chips.
You're telling me, boys, you get a good deal on a pint and a pizza. It's the same with a coleslaw. You get a free coleslaw chip, even though you only ordered normal chips.
Yeah,
You're getting a coleslaw chip,
I'm a man after a bargain.
and I'll not hear complaints about it.
Well, is there a Friar Tuck's in? There's none in Belfast, or there's none in the city.
Nope,
Okay,
they don't deserve it.
that's fair. You got 24-hour McDonald's, don't you? Just cons.
Yes, except, do you know about the Sunday trading laws in the north?
No.
fantastic. You'll get a good laugh out of this.
Oh, yeah.
If Carson was religious, he would have liked this too. So things can be advertised as 24-hour, and they will be, but they'll shut at midnight on a Saturday, and then they don't open until 1 o'clock p.m. on a Sunday.
Oh, okay.
So Sunday trading hours are only 1 to 6
Yeah, okay.
here in the north.
Yeah.
And then at 12 o'clock, basically coming into Monday morning, it goes back to the 24-hour system.
So 12 o'clock on a Saturday night, which I imagine is pretty busy in Belfast
Yeah.
in terms of drinking. That would be the one time you'd want it to be 24/7.
Now you'll still be able to get your McDonald's until like 1 or 2, but it's mental, and it's 100 years of, what can I tell you, oppression. That's what's like.
That's the worst part of it, which I suppose it isn't.
It was part of the
definitely
worst part.
not.
of it. But speaking of Edward Henry Carson, he was born on the 9th of February 1854. He would have been 168 last month. God bless him. If he wasn't dead.
I didn't want to interrupt you because I was like, Jason. He
So
doesn't
there is,
know.
I can't. Don't be giving away spoilers. I have heard this episode before,
Yeah.
but in fairness, I've forgotten most of it.
I'd forgotten it. I obviously wrote that joke in. Yeah, so it was in March we did the show.
Just so you know,
Because
he's
it's
going
now
to
2 months
refer to
ago.
you as Jordan all the way throughout.
Yeah. But he was born at number 4 Harcourt Street in Dublin into a wealthy Anglo-Irish family. His father was an architect and his mother was from landed gentry. They were the Lamberts of Galway. So I'd read reports about him speaking Irish as a kid, but I think that that's just a lie.
Is this like the allegation that he was also a hurler?
Yes. Yeah, which is here as well. So
We'll get to that.
we'll get that in one sentence, I think. He was educated in Dublin, but he was fairly sick as a child, so he missed out on a lot of his early schooling. But when he was 17, he still got into the prestigious Trinity College to study law.
Known for its hurling.
Known for its hurling. Well, so he's supposed to have played hurling there, but in reality it was a game called hurley.
I was going to say it's cricket. He was down having cans at the Pav.
Yeah. I've watched so many cricket games there, and lads would be like, just fucking stand back in case you get hit by the ball. Those boys are not good at cricket.
No, they're not hitting that ball.
That
at
ball
all.
is going nowhere near
It's
you.
more of a performance piece.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
them moving around.
But it was, I suppose the GAA would have been invented in 1884. So it's very unlikely that they'd be playing a GAA traditional game in Protestant Trinity.
But is it like shinty? Is that what it is? Like the Scottish game?
Can I point out as
Maybe.
well that hurling is essentially 3,000 years old? It's like
Oh,
a
yeah.
UNESCO World Heritage Sport.
Yeah. Since Cuchulainn killed that dog.
Yeah.
But I can't see them
It
putting
wasn't like
that.
the lads just met up in Tipperary and went, we're going to start some sort of Gaelic revolution. And
You
also, I've invented a new game. No, you haven't.
You tell that to the boys in Thurles, because as far as they're concerned, that was how it started.
Yeah.
Cuchulainn was a tip man.
That's a lie.
Yeah. Oh, he's probably in that book you gave me there.
He
about
is. He's from Louth,
folklore.
and then
He
we
is,
came to Armagh. He wandered over the border, and we kidnapped him.
Yeah.
Also, I should have said that as well, that I got a hat as a gift because I like hats, and Kevin got a history book because he does the brunt of the work on this podcast.
Yeah. Which is exemplified by Jason thinking that a children's folklore book is a history book.
What was this now?
That's just the book.
I know.
Hey. That is not for kids. There's very few pictures in it.
Oh, I thought you were going to say there's very explicit pictures in it as well. That's a good gift.
Queen Maeve.
So he definitely didn't play hurling, but that didn't stop Jerry Adams naming a hurling trophy after Carson in 2010. The inaugural Pock Aaron Knock, or the Puck on the Hill, where lads belted Schlitter from Stormont underneath Carson's statue for the Carson Cup.
Which, that's such a cop-out of the puck fada.
Yes.
Because
Oh,
you're
yeah.
using gravity.
Yeah.
Like, that's bollocks.
Yeah, because the puck fada that is played in the Cooley Mountains is basically
Yeah, you go up the
Up
hill.
fucking hill.
Yeah.
The aim is to knock it over the hill,
Yeah.
not down it.
You gotta start off the Belfast boys easy. You gotta ease them into the heritage.
It actually, just throwing it out there as a game. I've never played like soccer golf, like foot tee, whatever they call it. But like, if you did that hurling,
we've done that.
It's called
Oh, yeah?
We've
golf.
done that with the East Belfast GA. And we
See?
played it on a frisbee golf
ah,
course.
class.
Is it not just regular golf? You're getting awful close to.
Well, no, because a slitter
Standard.
won't fit in the little hole.
Oh, I know. But you're picking up the sliotar and pucking it, and then picking it up somewhere else and pucking it along. Yeah.
But you have to roll it up or jab it up. You can't just lift it in your
You
hand.
can't just lift it.
We're playing the rules of the game here, boys.
I mean, all right.
Helmet, no shin pads, the whole deal.
It's a full contact sport.
Exactly.
Um,
I got a yellow card for telling the flag to fuck off. It's weird.
The event lasted one season for 5 minutes. And we thought, let's just leave it and go to the pub.
So he wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't hurling, but he definitely was an active member of the College Historical Society in Trinity, the HIST. Previous members would have included Theobald Wolfetone and Robert Emmett.
And we all know how unionist they were.
Yes. Well, hang
on, wait a minute.
It would have been like 50 and 60 years after they were around. So I wonder, like, presumably their paintings weren't on the wall. I assume if you go in there, they're like, pride of place, former members. But I guess at the time that wasn't advertised.
Probably not.
Probably not. The list of cool alumni.
I'd imagine there was like a dusty square where their pictures were. And then like,
maybe.
Oh yeah, that we killed that guy. So take that down. Yes.
But it was a very Anglo-Irish, very Anglo-Protestant university was Trinity at the time. But when Carson was there, he met a young man called Oscar Wilde. Just tee that up for later on.
That's the last you'll hear of him.
Yeah.
So after graduating in 18...
Hang on, do you hear that? I heard some foreshadowing there. Sorry.
In 1877, he was called to the Irish bar at King's Inn, where he started to make a name for himself as a brilliant barrister. Around this time, he also met a Galway girl, just like his father, a woman called Annette Kirwan, who was descended from one of the 14 tribes of Galway. So he got married on the 19th of December 1879 when he was 25, but Annette was from a poor family and his father disapproved of the marriage and refused to attend the wedding. One less meal.
Fair.
It's not so bad. They were going to have 4 children together, which Carson would describe as a rum lot.
Don't know what that means.
No.
Good, bad, indifferent.
It's good, but it's also sort of sounds like the most affectionate thing to call your 4 children.
Yeah, you'd usually just lie. and say
They're
they
a
were
merry
great.
bunch.
A rum lot sounds like that's what he was drinking when he got her pregnant.
Yeah, a lot of rum.
Oh, gotta stay off the rum. Just having another one.
The 1880s was the decade of the land leagues in Ireland, Parnell's home rule movement, and Carson was in the mix as a lawyer. He was a champion for the little guy. He was taking on cases where he defended poor tenant farmers against absentee landlords. But then he started to get successful at that, so he switched sides to prosecute the tenant farmers because there's more money in it.
That's how capitalism works, yeah. That seems...
Yeah. You do the good work for a little bit, and then you're like, fuck this.
The whole system is
Yeah.
fucked.
Man's got ideals. Then
Yeah.
he's got a bigger mortgage, and then fuck your ideals.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. He got
Well, if you can't beat them, sell out.
If you can't beat them, beat the shit out of them.
yeah, prosecute them.
And by them, we mean the public beneath you.
Yeah. He also gained a bit of national clout at this stage with his debates against the second Home Rule Bill. So Home Rule was basically the idea of bringing a Parliament building back to Ireland. So Ireland would still be part of the UK, but it would be ruled from Dublin and not Westminster. So he was gaining no love from Irish nationalists at the time, but the Tories liked him, and in 1889 he became the youngest Queen's Council member and Crown prosecutor in history at just 35. By the end of the decade, he was living on Stephen's Green, overlooking the park, and had gained a reputation for being a great orator. So that's big. I think a few people in this show
It is big. If you change one word to it's a very sad story from living in or living on.
yeah. But the idea of we've met a few people or come across a few people in the show who like end up living on Stephen's Green. It's just such a power move.
Yeah, it's sort of if you live, it's like living around Central Park in New York.
Yes.
That's my house there.
Yeah,
Fucking
and
hell.
moving to London and just moving into Big Ben.
Yeah.
Like, it's a big.
Well, because we were having it out the other week where I was talking about how Stephen's Green is huge and it's amazing to have a park that big in the middle of the city. And you were just going off on about Phoenix Park.
Yeah, it's just sort of weird to like talk about how big Stephen's Green is when the Phoenix Park is a lot bigger.
It's it's nothing there. Like there's around it, it's the tail end of Stony Batter all up through parts of where I'm never.
No,
I'm just not up there.
You're just
What do you got? Irish Nocturne on it,
and the zoo and all of that crap. But like,
or
the
that's,
shopping centre.
All you do is have
area.
the president's house and the zoo, and then also about 1,000 other things.
Yeah, I don't know what the big deal is. What's the fuss?
Even when you go in the front,
I'm saying H&M, right? I'm talking O'Brien sandwiches.
there's a statue to
Bewley's coffee, Bewley's hot chocolate. If you're in the coffee store and don't want the caffeine,
I will counter this argument by saying Irish Nocturne is much more important because that is where Michael D. Higgins' dogs live.
yes,
and they are adorable.
one of
Yes.
them now, unfortunately.
Oh no!
Yeah.
No, he's got another one.
Oh, did you get a second one?
Yeah.
Thank God.
Oh, because one of them died during the pandemic.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
that's true. But he replaced it.
the same size or a puppy?
I don't know. I don't
Like a clone? Do we have
It's a
clones
clone
now?
of it, yeah.
Kev, phone him. Phone him.
Mickey. It's
Well,
me.
maybe it should
Jason's got another question about your dogs.
It should be probably cut out of the podcast because if it's not in the Patreon. But we were walking by there the other week and we got to like one of the security perimeters. I was just looking at it going, with a small bit of a running head start. Like
No, it's beautifully designed so that it's just out of reach.
Gotcha.
It's like, because not that no one could do it, but
someone with training at jumping.
yeah. With a,
Like
you
it's
can do
not,
it with a ladder
it's
easily.
not that far at all.
No, it's really
Yeah,
not.
if you brought over like a plank of wood, it'd probably fall across and you could just walk it.
Yeah, but if you get over there, you don't understand. That's when the walls come up, and then Michael D comes up, rolls his sleeves out, and he's like, "Go get him, boys!"
These dogs like Mr. Burns' dogs.
Yeah, pretty much.
They haven't been fed for 6 days.
Yeah.
Good luck.
He only ever shows 2 at a time out in public.
Yeah.
He's got 1,000 of those back there.
And then you're wrestling around with the dog, and you think you're getting the upper hand, and then Michael D is like, "All right, enough teasing him. Finish the job."
See, I was in Irish Drum whenever Mary McAleese was the president.
Oh yeah,
But she's from Belfast, so I figured she could handle herself. She didn't need any, like she's from Ardoyne in North Belfast. So Mary didn't need any bodyguards. Probably
No.
just break your neck herself.
That's protect
Did-
them from
yeah.
her. Is
they'd
Fuck are
sort
you
that
looking
out.
at?
They'd sort that out internally. Mary Crackleys. That'd be a good name for something.
Smackalies.
Because I want to. If I was going to become a drag queen, it'd be Mary Robinson.
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
that is a good one.
I wish I'd thought more about it since the last day you'd brought this up.
Oh yeah, I'm going to be bringing this up now for the next 4 months, so there'll be one in every episode this season.
Oh, okay.
But what do all great legal minds do at the time?
Move to England?
Almost.
There's politicians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. In 1892, he enters politics. In June, he's appointed the Solicitor General for Ireland, which means he's now advising the Crown on all Irish matters. And in July, he gets elected MP for Trinity University in the general election. Now, what do all successful comics do when they're doing well in Ireland?
Move to England?
There you go. Now it's time to move to England. The following year, 1893, Carson was admitted to the bar in England. He moved to London. So now he's the hot new gun on the scene, but he needs his first big case. He needs his OJ trial. And in 1895, he gets his wish with the infamous Oscar Wilde defamation case. Remember him from 20 minutes ago?
You said we were done with him.
I know, you were shocked the first time I did this as well. So Carson was hired by John Douglas, the Marquis of Queensberry. It's interesting that a man called the Marquis of Queensberry is the homophobic man in this.
Hang on,
case.
is the marker, is that the boxing?
Yeah, the rules of boxing.
Yeah, woo.
yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
Which
That's the next bit. It's a deep cut reference to the first episode we did. John Douglas, the Queensberry guy, was the man behind Queensberry boxing rules. He'd founded the Amateur Athletic Club, which is now the Amateur Athletic Association of England. But one of the first groups that did not require amateur athletes to belong to the upper class to compete, which must have seen a boon in breaking records when all of a sudden they let anyone else other than the richest, frailest old men join.
Yeah, well, that's like pretty much every sport that's ever existed. Eventually,
Yeah.
when they let the lower class or middle class people play. Right?
I think most of the sports are the lower class can't afford to play. So,
Well, that's true. as
Yeah.
well,
like, I want to do that. I'm like, do you have a canoe? No. Well, fuck you.
Yeah, I'd really love to commit my life to boxing if I wasn't working in this mine every single second
Exactly,
of my
yeah.
life. Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, Queensberry boxing rules. That's a good shout. So in February 1895, Douglas had left a calling card for Wilde at the Albemarle, a private club Wilde frequented, which said, "For Oscar Wilde, posing as sodomite." Douglas did this because he suspected Wilde of banging his son, Alfred Boozy Douglas. So Wilde then brought a libel charge against Douglas for calling him a sodomite. Douglas was arrested, faced a massive fine and or 2 years in prison if he was found guilty. But he could get the charges dropped if he proved that it wasn't libel and that Wilde actually was a sodomite.
Hang on. This is just more people that are looking incredibly amazing for their age. You're telling me Oscar Wilde was from Old Testament Sodom and Gomorrah? He was an actual
Yeah.
sodomite. And he was actually, and then just hanging out in Ireland, and then he was over in England.
Who do you
Yeah,
think wrote the Bible?
Unbelievable. That's why it's so well written. It had to be Wilde.
Yeah.
Sodomite. That is do you know what's mad as well? Like, people of a political and religious persuasion here in the north would definitely still use the phrase sodomite.
Oh yeah, sodomite's such a yeah.
Ian Paisley had a campaign in the, I think it was 50s or 60s, which was Save Ulster from Sodomy.
Yeah.
And the counter to that was there was like a counter revolution, and there's a poster you can get that says "Save Sodomy from Ulster."
Well, I didn't know. Like, I had an idea what it was, but it was only in the What's My Age Again, the Blink-182 song.
Yeah, the state looks down on sodomy. I think it's pretty much anything that isn't straight missionary sex. I think it's anything that's unproductive, because it's a vague term, but it's basically like anything. I think
It doesn't lead to reproduction.
I think it like is sort of used as shorthand for anal, but it's basically just anything that isn't reproduction.
Fair enough.
So yeah, this is another story about him, where because they knew each other from college, the story is that Carson declined to do it or felt guilty about it because he knew Wilde from before, but apparently he turned it down.
He thought he was only experimenting in college. It's not fair to send the man down for that.
He thought it.
He sent many a man down for that.
But apparently he turned it down initially because he didn't think there was enough evidence of it. But then he took one look at Wilde and he's like, "Oh, well, fucking."
I would
maybe they're
argue
onto
that he's
something.
a dapper gent.
He's dapper, but if you had to
Yeah,
prove
but-
that man was gay in court, you'd be like, "Oh, there's a chance."
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
the
fair
photo
enough.
of
There's an
him
outside
with his like
chance.
hand on the side of his head, where his leg is raised up on like a
Hmm.
rock, and he's wearing tights up to his knee.
Yeah.
Isn't that now a statue in Dublin?
It is. It's William
Yeah.
Marion
It's
Square.
amazing. Because I've been in that park and you just walk around. There's like, busts of Greek philosophers, and then Wilde's just hanging out in a rock. Thought it was a dude. I walked past, like, hey, fuck. Oh, it's a statue.
Yeah.
Oscar Wilde, what are you doing here?
But so when Wilde found out that it was Carson that was leading the defence, he said, "No doubt he will pursue this case with all the added bitterness of an old friend." But it's hard to know how friendly they actually were. They would have been in Trinity around the same time, and they kind of knew each other, but I don't know.
I'm just very aware that it would be very jarring to be up in court and then somebody walks in that you went to school with and you'd be like, oh, I haven't seen this guy in years. What's happening? Oh,
I've
you're
seen
the
that guy
prosecutor.
since I tried
Fuck
to
you.
suck his dick in it. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, like we went to college together, we didn't know each other.
No, that's true. But if I was up in court and then you came out as the opposing lawyer, I'd be like, I'm probably all right.
Yeah, I take one look at him and go, I like the cut of like he looks exactly like me. I like the
Yeah.
cut of this guy's jib.
No, this is like, what, did he get his law degree in DCU? Yeah, probably fine. Probably. I can put my feet up for this one.
Yeah. Order me a Friar Tux. I'll be
Yeah,
nearly
yeah.
within the hour.
I'll be back home. Put the kettle on. Ladies and lordies of the jury. Oh, shit.
Fiends and bewers of the jury.
What up? All right. Goes to high five the judge. All right, lad.
What are you drinking?
Yeah.
Whatever he's having himself.
Yeah. Where'd
No,
you get that?
say nothing. I brought some in myself.
Yeah.
Having the slide.
Just- so the trial became huge. Wilde was a really famous playwright at the time. He'd already written Dorian Gray and The Importance of Being Earnest at that stage. And Douglas had hired a private detective to dig up dirt in Wilde and uncovered a long line of male prostitutes, gay brothels, and famous lords that shocked Victorian London. But it seems like they were all fairly openly gay. It's just because no one else knew what to look for, and everyone was sort of like a fancy dandy.
Yeah, harder to tell.
It's harder
Yeah.
to tell, yeah.
Is this like past the age of the powdered wigs and all that kind of stuff? Or
Yeah, but I guess Wilde could walk around like that, and people were still like, he's a butch man. He looks like a good...
Well, shirts were like a lot more frilly then.
Yeah.
And,
tights in general.
and
like,
yeah.
Short shorts were all in fashion.
And also, if I were ever going to be a gay porn star, Oscar Wilde is a great name.
Yes.
Oscar likes to get wild. Do you know what I mean?
But so the main evidence against Wilde was fairly damning. There was a lot of letters between himself and Douglas, which were fairly out there. But Wilde claimed that the letters were like artistic prose and that it was just a joke, I guess.
I've sent him some pages to look over
Yeah.
that include his name and
Yeah.
accurate descriptions of his entire physiology.
Yeah, but he's very
Just a bit of a laugh, lads.
it's just a bit of banter. But he's extremely charming and affable in court. It's wild. The gallery's laughing along with him. He's making jokes, and generally things seem to be going his way until Carson comes up and takes the cross-examination and grills the shit out of him. You can go and read like the whole transcript from the court case, but the main bit where he starts to catch him out is... Actually, would we just go back and forth in this? This could be easier than
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this should be good. Who's playing who
So,
here?
yeah, do you want Carson or Wilde?
I'll go...
Or should we just go from
over
here?
here? Where are we going from? Do you
yeah,
want
yeah.
to? Okay. Well, you go Granger.
Granger's not one of the cards. You don't know how to read the
sorry.
script. That's a guy's
I
name.
just, on the line I looked at, it had a name, and I was like, you take that name.
Yeah.
Ken,
You
remember,
take
they're-
Carson.
They're both from Dublin, so I want accents here.
Yes.
All right,
Okay,
let's
but
go.
it was cool. Dublin.
All right. To get into character.
Yeah. Jack Heen, West Brit, Dublin. Here we go.
There's no recording of his voice, which is strange because he would have been around when like audio recordings were being made.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. There's none have been found anyway. But I'm gonna go with. Do you know Walter Granger?
Yes.
How old is he?
He was about 16 when I knew him. He was a servant at a certain house on High Street, Oxford, where Lord Edward Douglas had rooms. I have stayed there several times. Granger waited at table. I never dined with him. If it's one's duty to serve, it's one's duty to serve. And if it's one's pleasure to dine, it's one's pleasure to dine.
Did you ever kiss him?
Oh dear, no. He was a peculiarly plain boy. He was, unfortunately, extremely ugly. I pitied him for it.
And this is the point where Carson does his Columbo. It's okay then. It's just one more thing. Was that the reason why you did not kiss him?
Oh, Mr. Carson, you're pertinently insolent.
Did you say that in support of your statement that you never kissed him?
No, it's a childish question.
Did you ever put that forward as a reason why you never kissed the boy?
Not at all.
Why then, sir, did you mention that this boy was extremely ugly?
For this reason. If I am gay...
I've cracked the case.
For this reason, if I were asked why I did not kiss a doormat, I should say because I do not like to kiss doormats. I do not know why I mentioned that he was ugly, except that I was stung by the insolent question you put to me and the way you have insulted me throughout this hearing. I am to be cross-examined because I do not like it.
Why do you mention his ugliness?
It is ridiculous to imagine that any such thing could have occurred under any circumstance.
Then why did you mention his ugliness, I ask you?
Perhaps you insulted me by insinuating a question.
Was that a reason why you should say the boy was ugly?
The witness began several answers.
This is pretty, yeah, it just goes like that back and forth at a time. And then everyone starts to think, maybe he's on to something here.
Yeah.
Was
maybe the clue that once he mentioned the boy's name, Wilde got erect? Was that maybe how they caught
yeah,
him?
that's what gave
I've
it
just
away.
noticed something when I mentioned the boy's name.
He could have got him with
Your pantaloons betray you, sir.
So between this, like, damning cross-examination and Carson swears that he has several young men willing to testify that have sex with Wilde, on the advice of his lawyers, Wilde drops the prosecution. So Queensberry is found not guilty. His claim of Wilde being a sodomite is now legally true, and Wilde had to pay all legal expenses because he's now gay in the eyes of the court. Which I think this story also gets kind of mixed up a lot in like Carson's history because people think that he persecuted Wilde, which he did to an extent, but Wilde also brought this on himself. Like,
if he just had have said nothing,
if he'd have said nothing, he knew he was gay, and he tried to sue a man for calling him gay.
And no one cared, I imagine.
No, because it sounds like he left a card at his club, it also sounds like in the club he was being openly gay. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, take the card, burn it,
Yeah.
glass the guy next time you see him.
Yeah.
Keep it tidy. Keep it tidy.
But
it's a surefire way to get it like in the public discourse that you're talking
yeah.
about. Of going like, there's a lot of people saying it.
Why
a lot
would you
more
say
people
that?
are going to say it if you bring it into like
It's a
where it can
weird
be
thing to
reported
say.
on. Yeah.
You know, I'm now just thinking about every interaction I've ever had with that Oscar Wilde guy. Pretty camp.
This is a sort of different idea, but like I was talking to someone earlier on about an Irish comic who was like stung for grooming young ladies, and they're like, that seems crazy. That just went right by me. I remember talking to him when I was a teenager and started going to these gigs, and he went back and looked at the messages and was like, oh fuck,
Yeah.
I was too young to see what was happening there.
Oh.
Yeah.
With hindsight, prison.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's grooming. But yeah. So yeah, it kind of gets mixed up that Carson was the one who really fucked Wilde over, but it's after this defamation trial that Wilde then gets sued and prosecuted for sodomy in a separate trial, which is unrelated to Carson. And apparently Carson tried to prevent it, but I don't know. Apparently he approached the Solicitor General, who was Frank Lockwood at the time, and said, "Can you not let up on the fellow? He's suffered a great deal." And Lockwood said, "I would, but we cannot. We dare not. It would once be said, both in England and abroad, that owing to the names mentioned in Queensberry's letters, we were forced to abandon it." Because there was a load of fancy lords, including that guy Lockwood's own nephew, who were mentioned in the letters. So it's kind of too big of a scandal for them to now not follow up. And Wilde ultimately loses the sodomy case and is sentenced to hard labour, goes bankrupt after the trial, and dies like 3 years after getting out of jail. So I think maybe, like 5 years after the trials. Not a great end for the old man.
There is a thing about Wilde where basically the monotony of the torture he was submitted to in prison. The treadmill that you go to in the gym. That was basically invented as a means of keeping prisoners busy.
Oh,
It's
I thought you
like
meant-
Drive machinery. It was like you basically climbed like an everlasting stair.
It
A
was
ladder that
like
doesn't stop.
like a water turbine, like
Yeah.
old. Yeah,
But that's
yeah,
what the prisoners used to do. So Wilde did that and never basically recovered from what happened to him, and then
Yeah.
died 3 years later. Because
yeah.
it's not like he was old when he died.
No, it would have been like 40s, I think. But I did notice when I was trying to do Carson's accent there again. Fair play to you. You stuck with the accent the whole way through your rendition there.
It changed, I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
Did it? Yeah, not
Carlo
as
would
much as
be in
mine.
Newcastle upon Tyne at one point.
Yeah.
It was a good accent. It
Yeah.
wasn't his accent, but it was something.
I'll say this for the listeners as well. I've listened to basically every episode of Shy Talk. I enjoy the show. Great research. You guys are great
So
at improv and stuff.
So
Can't read off a screen.
No,
No,
Incredible.
no, yeah. It's
Here's written information. I can't do it, lads.
I can't be done.
it's
No.
difficult.
It is. I don't even know, because I tried to do some voice acting over lockdown just for myself for the crack. Because you start a sentence and then you realize halfway through it that the inclinations are a different way, or inflections a different way, or that it's longer than you thought, or there's a question mark at the end of it. The Spanish are the right idea, putting that thing at the fucking start.
Yeah.
I'll go wait until the end to realize I'm supposed to be shocked the whole time.
I used to do bits on stage where I would be telling travel stories about talking to people from different countries and they'd
Yeah.
be in the same conversation. And it's the most concentration I've ever had to use in my fucking life.
Yeah.
Because like I'm talking to somebody who's from somewhere else, and then he's talking to that guy who answers me, and then I talk back to the second guy, and he answers me, and I talk to the first. Very difficult. By the end, the audience are like, "Just say it." Then he said, "Stop ballsing up this accent."
But
I'm still going to edit our reading off of the screen down, and it'll still come out bad.
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
'Cause
but
it's like,
I'll have cut out all of the bits where I had to retake it and all of the fuck no, and it'll still not be great.
You still got a lot, like 5 of the words wrong.
Yeah, I was looking at the side of the computer.
Yeah, like at the start where you.
I just kept saying apple.
But Carson, so things don't go well for Wilde. Carson, on the other hand, he kept climbing the legal ladder. In May 1900, he was appointed Solicitor General for England and received the customary knighthood that came along with it, becoming Sir Edward Carson. So he was now on about 20 grand a year, looking big money, and he'd moved his wife and kids over to London with him. But his wife was depressed in London and became addicted to the ponies, gambling, and horse racing.
They're all the same thing.
Yeah, that's what Carson kept saying to her when she was like, no,
I can give up the
I can
ponies.
give up the
I'm not
ponies.
giving up the horses.
that's a different animal altogether. They're like bigger.
No, this one's got a guy on his back, and that one's towing a little guy in a trailer.
Yeah.
Different sport.
I'm telling you, it's the same thing. What do you want to bet? So apparently she got big into that. But in 1908, Carson had his second career case. It was called The London Evening Standard Newspaper versus Cadbury's Chocolate. So George Cadbury had brought a libel case against the newspaper after they said his factories in England were knowingly using cocoa produced by slaves from the Portuguese-controlled island of South Tom and Príncipe. So Cadbury said that they didn't know for sure that their stuff was coming from slave labour, and even if it was, they tried their best to stop it. Slavery had technically ended by that stage. The South Tom farms were offering 5-year contracts where the farmers would get a wage and could return home, but of the roughly 4,000 a year that were going from West Africa, no one ever returned.
I now have the most tenuous link to Edward Carson.
Oh yeah?
Oh yeah.
Did you try and sue Cadbury's Chocolate?
No.
Did you find the guy who pissed on his grave?
No. We should find that guy.
Yeah. He's probably still in Kelly's.
No. Tenuous link. The village I'm from in Armagh is called Bestbrook, which is also known as the Model Village. Do you
Yeah,
know
that's
why?
Cadbury's invented.
Cadbury's copied it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bourneville in England was built on the design of Bestbrook because Cadbury's were
Oh,
Quakers
really?
as well.
Yeah.
So that's why it's called the Model Village, because they copied it. Bourneville, where the original chocolate was made, was copied from the design of Bestbrook. The Model Village,
Yeah.
County Armagh. Carson was probably never there. Sorry.
No, because that's written in about Cadbury's Bourneville here, but I didn't realize it was a copy of Bestbrook.
There you go, boys.
There you go.
I'm on this by pure chance.
So yeah, none of them were coming back from Africa. They were paid, but 40% of their wage was held back for reparations, which they never got. And then the rest at the time that they spend the money in the plantations for like food and shelter, so we weren't actually getting any money. But the early 1900s, Cadbury made up about 20% of the cocoa bean export from South Tom. George Cadbury was a Quaker, and they're big into being sound and fairness, and oats. They built a model village in England called Bourneville for their employees, which was ripped off of Bestbrook.
There you go.
So he responded to concerns from the board over the slave labourness of Portuguese West Africa by going to Lisbon to talk to the guys who ran the farms. And surprisingly enough, they said, it's actually grand. Don't worry about it. They said, we're bringing in new rules in 1903. That'll sort things out. Shortly after that, investigative journalist Henry Nevinson travelled to West Africa to study labour conditions. And when he got back to England, he published his seminal work, Modern Slavery. So again, the Quaker Board of Cadbury's...
What year was this?
He got back in 1904 or 5, I think.
I haven't even had time to let the 1903 laws really be enacted.
Yeah, you gotta let that,
it's going to take a couple of years to really see the fruition.
Yeah, it's got to go downstream. You can't just get rid of slavery overnight.
Yeah, it's going to get
in.
I know we've brought in new laws, lads, but it's going to get worse before it continues to get worse.
But you know, modern slavery comes out. The lads are just like, George, this is frankly the opposite of what we wanted to see.
I feel like at this point, like Roger Casement's in Africa writing, he's there being like, so lads, this imperialism thing is awful.
Yeah, he's in.
I'm also a knight.
Or else how do those conversations go? Is it like, these labour conditions are ridiculous. I know, we're changing it. We got to get way more out of this.
Yeah.
We're paying these guys 40%.
Yeah, what are you, mad?
It's outrageous.
We're not even using 40% in the cocoa.
Well, yeah, at this point, Casement's hanging around the Congo.
Yeah,
talking about their rubber exports. But yeah, we need to do a different episode about him at some point. Quaker Board, they get on to George, send him back to the head of the issue. They send him back to Lisbon again in 1907. And he says, now come on, lads, really. But this time he sends his own man to Southolm to investigate. He spends 6 months on the island and publishes his findings in 1908. But by then there'd already been a revolution in Portugal, and Cadbury's had moved the production to the Gold Coast instead because it was seen as better quality, which is another very classic move where they just moved whenever it was seen as like getting a better deal.
Yeah,
and
just
then,
up sticks and go.
Yeah, and then condemned the place for being full of slavery.
I'm going to say something controversial.
Yeah.
Carson didn't exactly have to work hard at these.
Well, I suppose
these feel pretty cut and dry and disastrous.
he had to find out all this. Yeah, you're right. I suppose he was sitting in the waiting lobby of a office one day and he picked up a copy of Modern Slavery.
Yeah,
and that was pretty much it.
Here's the findings. I'm going to win this one.
Yeah. So he lays all this out in the court. He told them about the estimated yearly death rate of 20% for slave labourers and showed George dragging his heels to reform, only doing so when he could get a better product. In his closing question, Carson asked George, have you formed any estimate of the number of slaves who lost their lives in preparing your cocoa from 1901 to 1908? Which is a very difficult question to answer. Could you tell me exactly how many people died while you were dragging your heels there? And all Cadbury could say is, no. That was his last statement on it.
No, that was Churchill.
That was the Churchill dog. Oh, no.
Don't get me wrong, caramello, delicious, probably not worth that many people's lives.
Well, the reference I put into the script here...
Well, we don't know where the caramel comes from. We just know the chocolate.
Jesus.
The ratio in that.
Yeah.
Like
There's a sugar plantation, so let's not get into it. Yeah.
This is the reference from a month ago when Ortiz, David McCullough, had the Russian ambassador on, and he asked them, why should our government entertain your presence here when you're acting as an apologist for slaughter? And the ambassador just said, that's a good question. That's a good question.
I wasn't expecting an actual factual want of a result there.
It's a tough one to answer, really. So why should you be here if you're just going to apologize for slaughter? Yeah. I'll have to look into that. Yes. So Cadbury technically won the case, but the jury only awarded them 1 farthing for reputational damage. So it was seen as a victory for Carson. They've done a good job of scrubbing it from the internet, because if you Google the London Evening Standard versus Cadbury chocolate, the top result is Cadbury confirms chocolate should not be stored in the fridge. And then if you stick 1908 after that, it comes back with outrage as Cadbury drops old favourites fudge from selection boxes. And that's, I know it's 100 years ago, but like it should be easier to find.
Yeah, and also very debatable. I want my Cadburys in the fridge.
Well, listen, we haven't got time to get into that now. It's a separate behind the Patreon episode.
Yeah, we've this has been edited, but we've already been here for 6 days.
Yeah.
So
yeah. We haven't got time.
Get a chocolate bar out of the fridge and shut up. Let's go.
So in 1910, also another big case where he defended a young Catholic cadet called Archer Shee, who was accused of stealing a postal stamp. And I don't know, that was the whole case. The same
Is that
year,
because the Queen's image is on it?
yes,
Something, yeah.
He really wanted to.
No, as in like that's why it's a crime.
No,
Because you're stealing government property that has the image of the Queen.
I think it's because he was a Catholic cadet and they wanted to do him for something. And then when the case came boiled down to, it was like, right, well, you're accusing him. Even if he did do it, it's like a stamp. And they're like, I want him off my boat. So the same year, he's elected leader of the Irish Unionist Parliamentary Party, which was full of Ulster Unionists, even though it was like the All-Ireland Party. So after the 1910 elections, Prime Minister Asquith had a small majority of 2 seats, and he made a grubby deal with John Redmond's Irish Nationalist Party. In order to get them to back him, he offered Ireland Home Rule, which doesn't sit well with Unionist MPs. They all band together to form the Ulster Unionist Council to combat Home Rule. So basically the population after the famine is like 1 million Unionists to 3 million Nationalists. And the main issue was that they didn't want to be a minority in their own country, which is always fun. You say, well, why are minorities being treated badly in this country? But the MP from East Down, James Craig, knew they'd need a charming, smooth-talking man to lead the Unionist cause, and he got Edward Carson up.
Spoiler alert, pretty sure James Craig was the first Prime Minister of Northern Ireland.
He was, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
What's his end? Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also kind of, I guess there's a good sense of knowing your place where you're like, we need someone who isn't kicked.
Yeah.
we need someone who has all the same opinions as me, but is handsome. So they got Carson. Which, and again, James Craig is from, I don't think he's from Craigavon. They named Craigavon after him.
After Lord Craigavon.
Yeah. But was he not the first? Was he not Lord Craigavon?
I mean, possibly.
Possibly. But, well, like he's from, basically to bring someone up from the south to represent Unionist views would have been a risky move anyway. So Craig must have been very ugly looking. In August, the Parliamentary Act of 1911 came into effect, which meant the House of Lords couldn't veto a bill. I think it was they couldn't veto it 3 times in a row. So it was brought in over some budgeting issue, but it also accidentally meant that they couldn't get rid of Home Rule this time. Home Rule was coming home. In September, a month after the vetoing law was passed, Craig organised 50,000 people to gather in Belfast to hear Carson speak about Home Rule, basically introducing him as the new leader of the Unionist movement. People weren't sure about Carson. He has his Dublin accent and spent a lot of time over in London, but he won them over with a speech where he said, I am now entering into a contract with you, every one of you, and with the help of God, you and I together will yet defeat the most nefarious conspiracy that ever been hatched against a free people.
So he was in the north for a week and developed a northern accent.
Yeah, he knew how to play to an audience.
Jesus Christ. Well done.
Yeah.
I catch myself doing that, though. I'm up here for 2 hours.
Yeah.
What about you?
There's about you, mucker. But that's the great, like, the most nefarious conspiracy that's ever been hatched against the free people. And what he's referring to is basically just having a parliament building in Dublin.
Which they now do.
Which they now do.
Mm-hmm.
And, he wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
And he also talks about the need for provisional government of the Protestant province of Ulster to be ready should a third Home Rule bill pass.
Which they did.
Yeah, well, on the 12th of April...
Should have been asking Carson for his fucking lotto number.
In 1912, the third Home Rule bill was passed in Parliament. 3 days later, the Titanic sank. So, not a good week for Belfast. From the start of 1912, Carson, Craig, and members of the Orange Order had been overseeing Unionist militias known as the Ulster Volunteers. So it's not the UVF, that's just the UV. Until January next year when they became the UVF.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just days before Home Rule had passed, Carson had inspected 100,000 UV troops marching alongside of his colleague, leader of the Conservative Unionist Party, Bonar Law, who's only in this story because his name's Bonar Law.
Is it Bonar or Bonner?
Doesn't matter.
It's now Bonar now.
It's Bonor, so it's definitely Bonner, but yeah.
I'm sure he spent most of his life trying to tell people it was the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as he got to high school, fucking Bonar.
Bonner.
It's Bonner, not anymore. It's not.
I can't remember
Get used to it.
who the sports presenter was, but Packy Bonner. Whenever the sports presenter died, I remember seeing an interview with Packy Bonner, and he's like, he was such a gentleman because my name's actually Packy Boner, and he'd always correct people because people always say Packy Bonner, but he'd always be like, it's Packy Boner. So he was not doing you any favors, mate. I fucking stick with Bonner.
Whereas in the modern times, somebody should be going, hey, you can't say a Packy.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's a Donegal thing. It's fine.
Yeah. I remember getting grinds from a Monaghan woman years ago, and her dog was called Packy. Because it's just Patrick in around the border counties. But like chasing her dog after it ran away down the street shouting, Packy! Packy! Becky! It's not a good look. So yeah, at the time, the Ulster Volunteers were being set up to fight against the British Crown, not Irish nationalists necessarily. They thought the enemy was going to be Britain, that was going to make them take home rule. But on Sunday, the 28th of September, 1912, known as Ulster Day, is it?
I don't think anymore.
No, I don't think I've heard anyone call it that. But
And if it is, I'm probably not allowed to celebrate it.
yeah. But
Celebrate it in your own way.
Yeah. By staying in the house with the curtains drawn
but Carson,
and all the lights off.
Carson was the first of 447,000 signatories on the Ulster Covenant, about 200,000 men who all vowed to use all means which may be found necessary to defeat the present conspiracy to set up a Home Rule Parliament in Ireland. And they said if an Irish Parliament was brought in, they'd refuse to recognise his authority. Which is interesting that he's like, because he's like a serious legal mind, and he's on the Queen's Council and like really high up on, like he's previously advising the Queen on all matters to Ireland, and now he's come over to Belfast and basically got them all to sign the document that says fuck the government. If they make you do this, you don't have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a bit of a U-turn for the man. The women signed a different pact basically saying, I agree with the man. Carson led his march on Belfast with 500,000 citizens against Home Rule, mostly Ulster Unionists, but there was just about 1,000 Southern Unionists that travelled up for the day, and 2,000 in Dublin that signed it.
When real travel in Ireland was affordable.
Yeah,
There you go.
imagine travelling 4 days to go up and sign a document that
Yeah.
means you're just going to not have the Parliament.
Yeah, we've just done the census where they bring it to your door, and most people haven't done that.
No,
Yeah.
that was too much.
The myth as well that he signed the Ulster Covenant in his own blood.
Yes, also, you've read the script. I
haven't,
think you had Jordan tell you what's happening. in
No,
this.
I just know the story.
Yeah,
And, well, we all know what happened there.
Was it because I think it was a popular rumor. Because I asked the fucking audience at the time, they're like, I don't know.
Carson is a confusing character here in the north.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because people are just like, yeah, Carson, it's a statue of him in Stormont. They're
Yeah.
like, all right, tell me about him.
Pissed on his grave once.
Yeah. They're like, so how long did he live in Northern Ireland for? Oh, he never lived here.
yeah.
Wait, what? It's all got very confusing. And also that period in Irish history where with the Home Rule and they're like, we want to be part of the United Kingdom. And they're like, no problem. But if they want to leave, you have to leave with them. Well, fuck you, government. We're arming ourselves.
Yeah.
To fight them? No, to fight you. To fight the
yeah.
people you want to be part of? Yeah, this is very confusing.
We're going to make you love us.
Yeah. And 120 years later, they're doing the same thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
What was that good old Mike Tyson quote? I'm gonna fuck you till you love me.
Yeah, that does seem to be. Yeah. And it is similar to Brexit in that it was like the same, British government needed 2 seats to get a majority, so they did a grubby deal with a fringe Irish party in order to fuck over the rest of the country.
Pretty much.
But yeah, so there's a rumour that some people, including unionist Frederick Hugh Crawford, signed the proclamation in blood. But they checked it in recent times and they said there's a 90% chance it's not blood, just red ink. That's not enough of a percent chance. For
Yeah, what the hell? How
Still
can
a
you not
10%
tell?
chance it's blood. Yeah, I would have thought that was easy enough to do.
Yeah. Get the CSI light.
Yeah.
Give it a shiny shine.
I
What
think
are we
they
looking at here, boys?
they just don't want to find out because it is blood.
Or else blood in the day had so much ink in it.
Yeah, maybe.
Poisoning.
He might have cut himself with a pen and like mixed and fucked it up. But to celebrate the world's first Ulster Day, they unfurled the world's largest Union Jack at the time.
He was about 6'7".
He loved the Union.
Do you want another fun fact for the thing of something I've
absolutely.
been
Always.
repeatedly told growing up here?
Yeah.
It's only a Union Jack when it's on a ship. It's a Union flag otherwise.
Interesting.
The Union Jack is flown by the Navy. A Union flag is when it's respectfully flown from a lamppost.
And
Yeah,
so that's
yeah.
because
We've seen a few of them today already.
then that's why
They
I
knew you were
guess.
coming.
Yeah.
But that's probably why then the Jackines, because they would have been waiting at Dublin port for ships to come in back in the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's
Okay.
probably true.
Just so we're not culturally offending anybody while we chat shit about Carson.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as you get the flag denomination right. So the author of The Jungle Book and that one poem, If, Rudyard Kipling, he was close friends with Carson, although as far as I could figure out, he has no connection to Ulster. I don't think he ever lived here either, but he was a big unionist. He once said that before the English arrived in Ireland, the Irish were a gang of cattle thieves living in savagery and killing each other while writing dreary poems about it all.
Fucking God, that's pretty good.
Yeah, but he shouldn't
Yeah.
have said it. It's not nice.
Okay.
You
You
know.
think it?
Yeah, he
And
wrote it down.
we can say it.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
Yeah. Like if W.B. Yeats writes it,
Yeah.
poetry.
I mean, again, it's probably in that book you give me, but like the big, like the Queen Maeve saga is
And
just
Tain
about.
Bócula,
Yeah, it's just about a cow.
Can't call Queen Maeve a cow, she's queen.
Yeah, that's true. She's our queen. Kipling wrote the poem Ulster 1912 in response to the possible Home Rule Bill, where he said, "We stand to pay the cost in all that men hold dear. We'll answer from the north. One law, one land, one throne. If England drive us forth, we shall not fall alone." Which is pretty sinister stuff.
Yeah.
Again, this is all aimed towards not the Irish nationalists in the south. They're like, if you make us do this, oh baby, we're gonna fuck England up. There's another poem about Carson and his cat. Did you hear this?
No. Is it also by Rudyard Kipling?
I don't think so. I think it's by Anonymous. Sir Edward Carson has a cat. It sits upon the fender, and every time a mouse it gets, it shouts out, "No surrender." That was, yeah.
I'm going to guess that was written in 1976.
I don't know, yeah. When I was mentioned the first time I was writing this story, someone asked me, "Are you going to write about his cat?" I don't think he had a cat, but he did have a poem about it.
There you go. It's like he only brought the cat to the hurling matches he didn't attend.
Yeah. He was. I love the idea of him going out to watch Down hurling every time, but like in a mustache with a cat.
Also, No Surrender isn't Carson. That's the Siege of Derry. It's nothing to do with Carson.
Or even because when we were doing 1690, the Siege of Derry. What was before the Siege of not Bantry, but I don't know, some town in Cork. They also claimed that they invented No Surrender. But yeah, it's way before. Yeah,
man, this is the Rory Gallagher thing all over again. The South wants him, the North's claiming him.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on here.
So on the 24th of April,
The rest of the world doesn't know it exists.
Exactly.
No. On the 24th of April, 1914, the UVF get a load of guns from Germany in the long gun running when the SS Fanny dropped them off the Antrim coast. In the south, the Irish Volunteers, who'd been formed in November 1913 in response to the UVF, they were mostly drilling with hurls and sticks. Some of the IV members thought that it wasn't the UVF and the Unionists standing in the way of Home Rule, and that it was actually the Tories, going so far as to view the UVF as a good thing, because in some twisted way, they were like the epitome of nationalism, because they were going against what the UK wanted. They were going against the verdict of Home Rule, what they didn't agree with, and they were protesting to form the country that they wanted. So Owen McNeill, who formed the Irish Volunteers, said, "The action of Union volunteers, interpreted as a will, is the very essence of nationalism. They show that no matter what English parties may say, they're going to have their own say in their own country." Which is to kill Owen McNeill. And
Yeah,
anyone
it's
else
very
like him.
confusing, man.
It is confused. It's like, I agree with so much with the principle of what they're doing. I don't even care if they murder my wife and kids. Fair play to them.
Yeah, staunch, I think, is the word that gets used these days.
Yeah.
You gotta crack a
Yeah.
few eggs to make an omelette.
Yeah.
Well,
Gotta
it-
hear the crack of a few rifles.
Yeah. Well, in
Hold
this,
an insurrection. Wait, what are we on about?
in this spirit, Sinn Féin TD Patrick McCartan lent his car to some local UVF lads to go pick up guns for the alarm gun running.
Sound of him.
Yeah.
Help thy neighbour.
Yeah. Well, that came back to bite him in 1918 when he ran for office in South Armagh. Those boys like, you let those go off in a car and get a load of guns and shoot my family. So the British government were
In
obviously...
my defense, I didn't know they were going to do it with guns.
Yeah. The British government were obviously annoyed at the UVF, but they did very little beyond saying, here, now, stop that. A few weeks after the guns landed, and with Home Rule on the way, the government put the military base in Curra in County Kildare on high alert, but many of the officers, who were mostly like Anglo-Irish Protestant men, threatened to either resign or accept dismissal if they're asked to move against what they saw as their brothers in Ulster. So now the UVF are getting cocky because they see the military won't move against them and the government won't really do anything against them. And the Irish Volunteers are getting worried, seeing the same thing. But luckily, the Hoth gun running in July balanced things out when Germany sold guns to the Irish Volunteers as well, which is fairly sound of Germany.
It's good of them to sell guns to both sides.
Yeah. And this is all happening about 2 months before World War One, so they're definitely like, they're selling the shit stuff. And
But in fairness, if you're helping both sides, technically then they're neutral. That's what people always say about Germany.
You're going to balance the book.
They were very during the war.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sold me a tank with a starter crank motor.
I do love the idea of the lads going up to pick up the guns. It was like, oh, is this box of shiny new rifles? No, it's the ones behind that. So the ones out by the bins.
It's all the dusty ones.
Yeah, all those ones from...
See, they've been tested already.
Yeah,
These
yeah.
brand new ones.
You don't want to go with the new model. You wouldn't know what would happen.
What's the little stick for? Oh, when you put the bullet in, you poke it down. With
Yeah.
When are these from? So you
We-
light the fuse on the... Wait, how does this work?
We've got all the classics. The little round bowling ball with the fuse that goes on it. This 7 sticks of dynamite with the clock. the pistol that says bong. You could have them all, and they sold them all to both sides. So Carson was getting more set on his unionist Northern Paradise. Increasingly, he was moving away from compromise, and after arming the UVF, he made it clear that ideally he wanted Ireland to remain in the Union, but at the very least, he wanted partition, and he was willing to fight for it. Which again is very bizarre from like a very high-profile leading lawyer political figure. But in the middle of all this action, his wife Annette died, which probably didn't help his mood too much. But luckily, he wasn't long in the dating scene. Within a year, he was married to Ruby Fruin, a 29-year-old, and Carson himself was 60. It later turned out that actually met years earlier and he'd been having an affair.
How many years earlier?
A few. It probably explains his wife's addiction to gambling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like a long... Like, I think they might have been having an affair whenever... There's actually a radio interview with Ruby where she described... Because she was so much younger than him. She survived.
Yeah, she's still alive.
She is still alive. But she describes first bumping into Carson, and she says she went up to her friend afterwards and said, I do think I've just seen Sir Edward Carson. And her friend said, well, then you've just met the rudest man in England. And, you know, from that on, she was set on marrying him.
They love a bad boy.
Yeah, like a man who's trying to cause an insurrection.
Yeah.
Look at him there, his leather jacket and his insurrection.
Yeah.
Smoke behind the ear.
Yeah. Smooth talking Edward Carson.
Yeah, no, that's the font. We're talking about the fonts.
That's
Different
what it
guy.
is.
Sorry.
You, instead of
No,
hitting
I'm
the-
pretty sure you'd see Edward Carson walk backwards toward the jukebox, give it a little smash.
But it was just a man called Duke Box. The Duke of Box.
Kicks a gramophone.
Yeah, the Married Queens where he met him, he's like, hold on, we can put something together here.
So they were going to have one son in 1920 called Edward Carson. So he had two other sons from his first marriage, so Annette obviously wouldn't let him call one of them Edward. But he got his way in the end. So the third Home Rule Bill officially passes on the 25th of May 1914. And thanks to that Parliamentary Act we were talking about earlier, it couldn't be blocked this time. So it's due to come into effect in September 1914. But luckily World War I happened that July.
I was going to say, however.
Which...
Yeah, this is the part of the story where it's like everything seems to be going well, and then the record scratch.
Yeah.
Somebody put a bullet in Franz Ferdinand, not the indie band.
Oh, it's like the Always Sunny kind of cold opens.
Yeah. Well, it looks like we've got Home Rule, boys. The gang goes to World War I. So at the outbreak of the war, Carson said, England's difficulty is not Ulster's opportunity, and announced that the UVF would help the war effort and quickly organise the 36th Ulster Division.
And it all ended happily for them.
Yeah.
Except for the Battle of the Somme.
Well,
Part 2, the Battle of the Somme.
Yeah.
Well, I think Jordan was saying this at the live show that they're very, very proud of
getting
that
slaughtered.
36. Yeah, but it was basically just that they got demolished.
The reason that it's seen as such a big thing was basically the Ulster divisions were the only actual divisions to break the lines on the first day of the Somme. But by the end of it was like 60,000 British dead. So it could have went better.
It could have, yeah.
Yeah, but that was the whole thing, because then there's all these speeches about, I wish on that day I were an Ulster man and all this sort of stuff. But you're like, guys, 6 years made it down into the fucking trench.
Yeah.
3,000 years left the hole over the other side of the field.
Yeah.
This was bad.
A lot of men died over there.
Yes, exactly.
So John Redmond, he took the majority of the Irish volunteers and brought them to World War I as well. He figured if they fought side by side together in arms with like the UVF lads, that they would find a common enemy in killing Germans, basically.
It's essentially killing Germans who had sold them the guns.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought you looked familiar.
Bringing them back, being like, this is fucking faulty, mate. Fucking gizzing you one.
I have the receipt.
Yeah. So in that September, he said, Catholic nationalist Irishmen and Protestant Unionist Irishmen from the north of Ireland will be fighting side by side in the battlefields of the continent and shedding their blood side by side. So he took the majority of the IV, that was known as Redmond's army, and he left the rump, the fucking losers, behind, like a runt force, and they are now known as All the Lads What Did 1916. So I
in
think
modern terms have been known as only the boys.
The boys. I think he left like 10,000. Like the vast majority went to fight, and they were like the guys who were very idealistic and wouldn't go. And then 6 months later,
Yeah,
no,
people are
sorry,
just
a year and 6 months later.
I'm exempt from service. Why? I'm a poet. Yeah, okay. You stay
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
You just fucking
Oh
stay here.
yeah. All the poets and playwrights and artists and teachers, you hang
Yeah.
back. We'll go fucking sort the war.
I'm
We'll-
not feeling like you're going to reload that mortar quick
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah, we're going to need someone to tell the story.
Yeah. We'll go give Jerry what's for, and we'll be back in time for whatever revolution we've planned. But in 1915, Carson became Attorney General in the first UK coalition government under Asquith, which is that's such a weird choice because he was basically an open rebellion, and now he's being chosen as Attorney General.
Is that like give you a job to keep you quiet?
I don't know. I think it's basically like,
Calm down. No, here's a raise. All right, let's talk.
Well, there was basically no opposition at the time because everyone was in the coalition, bar Redmond's Irish Nationalist Party, and they supported the government because of the war going on. But when Carson resigned in October 1915, he became the de facto leader of the Unionists' opposition. From there, he played a major role in forcing Asquith to step down, and was rewarded when Lloyd George took over by being made First Lord of the Admiralty in December 1916, and then brought into the British War Cabinet as Minister without Portfolio in July 1917, which is a very cool
Isn't
title.
Tony Houlihan doing something similar?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, he was given Trinity lecture without portfolio.
Yeah.
But being put in charge of the Navy during World War One, like that's pure jobs for the boys.
It's quite weird as well because we study
Been
World
put
War
in the part of
One.
the Navy, it'd be jobs for the buoys.
There you go.
I like
there. And
It's one of those
with
ones where I
his-
appreciate the craft of this.
Yeah. And because of his latent,
The joke itself and the delivery, not up to much.
but the effort, you got to respect it.
Yeah.
I was just going to go down the lines of because of his latent homophobia, he started expecting the Navy. And he was like, whoa, what? His top hat was spinning.
I was just going to say because when we're in school here, we study World War One, and when you're doing history for your exams, and every time you say one of those names of like the Admiralty or people who are in the British government,
Yeah.
because I know of what they're up to and what they did and how many people they fucking led to their deaths.
Yeah.
Every time you say a name, I have to just stop myself as an Irishman from going, "Oh, that fucker."
That bastard. Lloyd George, Asquith. Yeah, I don't know. They're all sort of backstabbing each other in this like pivotal moment of the war. But even when Carson got rewarded with this Minister without portfolio, which I think it's because he fucked up the Navy job and they basically just gave him like, here's a job where you're very high profile but you don't actually have to do anything. But he left that anyway a few months later when the government wanted to offer Ireland home rule in exchange for conscription during World War One, which I guess he thought the counter offer should just be you'll be forcibly conscripted in the army and you'll shut the fuck up about it. In reward, could we have our own government building here? No.
But because the two sides were always so keen to get to World War One, which was Redmond and Carson leading the boys, that led to during World War One, basically out of people who volunteered per population, Ireland had more people volunteer than anywhere else in the British Empire.
Yeah, is that true? That's crazy.
Yeah, to be like, let's go. Why? Because we'll get back and they'll give us our own. No, they won't.
yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
They'll teach us how to fight.
Yeah.
Well, that was one of the. I mean that's happened a few times where I guess a minority is promised something by the government if they go off and fight a war and then they come back and the promise is reneged, but all of a sudden they now know how to use our weapons. But when proposals for a post-war League of Nations were floated in 1917, Carson shot down the idea, saying, "Talk to me of the League of Nations. Every great power in Europe was pledged by treaty to preserve Belgium. That was a League of Nations, but it failed."
He was a bigger fan of European Championships and the World Cup.
Yeah, he just wanted to focus on that. He didn't want
Yeah.
anything.
Something to look forward to every 2 years.
Yeah,
Makes more sense. I don't want one big event. I want it spread out.
that was his logic. In the December 1918 general election in Ireland, Sinn Féin won 73 out of 105 possible seats, with various unionist parties winning 26. 23 of them were in the 6 counties. And then the Irish Parliamentary Party won only 6. So this is basically Irish Parliamentary Party was home rule.
The end of the
versus-
home rulers, basically.
Yeah. So it was basically an ideological election between Irish Parliamentary Party's home rule and Sinn Féin's like republic. And
Yeah.
like Sinn Féin had a landslide, so that was taken as the people of Ireland won the fucking republic. So they set up the first meeting of the Dáil in January 1919. And Carson had given up his Dublin University seat, but he ran for election for Belfast Duncarn. And because he'd been elected into the Dáil, he was sent an invitation, which was written in Irish. But he refused to take a seat in Mansion House. But apparently, he kept the invitation as a souvenir.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thought it was an invite for dinner. I was
Yeah.
like, well, I'm not sitting with those people.
Yeah. Oh no, that was something too. Well, I think the day before this, Fine Gael had handed me a leaflet that said 100 years of Fine Gael, and Michael Collins was on the front of it.
Interesting.
Fine Gael was founded in 1933, 10 years after Mick had been killed. So he was in Sinn Féin. It's just a picture of him on the front shouting something, and I think that they claim him because he was pro-treaty.
Yeah.
And
And that's it.
That's it. Fianna Fáil is dead, so they're like, we'll have Mick. Doesn't matter that he was already long dead. And they don't have Ono Duffy on the poster, who did form Fine Gael after leaving the Irish Fascist Party.
I mean, that's the guy who would have his hand in the Ireland photo.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
He'd be giving it that. But
see, while all that was going on, because obviously Carson has his own thing that he wants to do, so he's up in the north, basically just looking south now going, these dudes are fucking nuts.
yeah.
Look at how they're changing sides. Don't know what's going on. They're voting for shit, then walking out when it wins.
Yeah. It's
such. I just have always thought that's such a great move.
yeah.
This is what we want. You got it. This is unacceptable. We're leaving. Wait, what?
It's outrageous. So Carson continues on as the leader of the Unionists, and when the Government Act of 1920 was introduced, he advised the party to take the exclusion of the 6 counties as a compromise. He previously rejected it as just a stay of execution, and then later rejected the idea of all 9 Ulster counties because he figured the vote aspect would be skewed towards Catholics eventually.
I did hear that during the Border Commission, that was the big argument. When they were talking about Donegal, Cavan and Monaghan, they were sitting around the table going, no, you take them. They're like, no, you take them. No, you take them. No, you fucking take them.
We want Donegal. You have to say Cavan and Monaghan as well. So, whoa, hang on.
There was a game of cards, and then the boys in Dublin were like, all right, fine, we'll have Donegal, but they're not getting the railway. That's it.
But I guess so the logic was at
But
some
they had
point...
the first railway.
Did they?
They had the first operational railway in Ireland, and then now it's the only county that doesn't have a railway.
I've heard that somewhere before.
It might have been me drunkenly saying it.
It was you on this podcast.
A man told me before years ago.
I'm doing callbacks to episodes I wasn't even fucking on.
Well, I'm doing,
Leave this in.
when I tell facts like that, I'm basically doing callbacks to stories that I was drunk for and people were wrong about when they were telling me.
Well, here's a fact for you. So they agreed on what would make up the new province, and the Parliament of Northern Ireland was created. But initially, the name Northern Ireland was just a legal placeholder. Like, even the Unionists didn't like it because it implied that, like, it's not real Ireland, like it's north of Ireland or something like that. And before a name was officially chosen, the leading alternative, which appears in like papers, was Carsonia.
Actually?
Yeah. A headline from a newspaper before the last 32 county election in 1921 read, "All eyes on Carsonia."
With a name like Carsonia, it sounds like it probably was going to end up as part of the Soviet Union.
Yeah, maybe.
It's a very Balkan sounding.
Yeah.
It is. It certainly doesn't fit in with like Wales, Scotland, England, Ireland, and Carsonia.
Yeah, because it would be Carsonland. But then that's too easy to deface on the signs because it just become Arsonland.
Oh, yeah. To be fair, Arsonland is accurate for what happened
For what
years
happened
later.
Yeah. Is it too late to change?
It's on fire again.
Yeah. Is it
Still, same fire.
100 years of fire in Arsonland.
Yeah. What are the chances?
So Carson said of Stormont, "Once it is granted, it cannot be interfered with. You cannot knock parliaments up and down as you do a ball. Once you have planted them there, you cannot get rid of them." But he did like his idea, like you can't mess with parliament once it's set up, unless someone wants to speak Irish or scam a load of money off wood pellets. Then you can shut it down for
Absolutely.
years. Yeah, that's grand.
Yep.
I think we'll have to do another episode on the wood pellet scandal because that's great.
Oh, lad, we can collapse. We can collapse a government here if somebody uses the wrong fucking milk. They're doing the cup of tea for the boys.
Yeah.
Is that blue milk? Yeah, that's it,
Yeah.
boys. We're out of here.
You leaving the tea bag in? We're gone. 6 months.
Yeah, you fucking savages.
So as leader of the Unionist Party, he was the obvious choice for the new role of Prime Minister of Northern Ireland, but he declined. This kind of is put forward as an idea that, along with a certain part of his speech we'll get into in a minute, this is put forward as proof that he changed his mind on Ulster, but really it's because he thought he had no connections in Ulster because he never lived here. He was still seen as a blow-in. He was 67, so he figured he was getting too old. But his old friend Bonar Law was Prime Minister of England at the time at age 68, which isn't relevant to the story, but I was surprised that Bonar Law showed up again, and also that England had a Prime Minister called Bonar Law.
I was surprised there was a 68-year-old boner attached to his name.
Well,
hey,
listen,
Carson was having kids in his 60s, man.
that's true. You can't keep a good boner down.
Exactly.
That's why Wilde was,
He was
found
sent
guilty.
down under Bonar Law. Well, the speech is given as proof as him changing his mind from 1921, and he said, "I believed all this. I thought of the last 30 years during which I was fighting with others whose friendship and comradeship I hope I will lose from tonight, because I do not value any friendship that is not founded upon confidence and trust. I was in earnest. What a fool I was. I was only a puppet, and so was Ulster, and so was Ireland, in the political game that was to get the Conservative Party into power." But
Which is the example still used when discussing Brexit.
That's pretty much the same thing. It wasn't in context. It was in context of the Tories passing the Anglo-Irish Treaty. So he was talking about he wasn't regretting Ulster. He was talking about getting fucked over with the Tories.
It's like, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, we're from Northern Ireland.
Yeah. Fooled me every 10 years for the entire existence of my country.
It's a general election.
Yeah. Later in that same speech, Carson said, "But I say to my Ulster friends, and I say it with all sincerity and solemnity, do not be led into any such false line. Stick to your old ideals of close and closer connection with this country. The coalition government, after all, is not the British nation, and the British nation will certainly see you righted. Your interests lie with Great Britain. You have helped her, and you have helped the Empire, and her empire belongs just as much to you as it does to England. Stick to it and trust the British people." So that was his real sentiment.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, that seems a wee bit more. All right, no more guns. I know we were really pushing the guns thing a while ago, but it was...
Yeah.
Calm down, boys.
Put them away now.
Yeah.
He resigned in February of 1921 and left James Craig, as you called out at the start, to become the first Prime Minister of the new Northern Ireland.
Oh, Jimmy Craig.
But in his resignation speech, he did try and leave the Unionist Party with some good advice, warning them not to mistreat the Catholic minority. Their main worry had always been that they would be unfairly treated in a Catholic majority country, so he argued that they should do the opposite. "We used to say that we could not trust an Irish Parliament in Dublin to do justice to the Protestant minority. Let us take care that reproach can no longer be made against your Parliament, and from the outset, let them see that the Catholic minority have nothing to fear from a Protestant majority."
And they listened to every word of it until they burnt my family out of Lisburn in 1920.
At that point, James Craig and the lads were already down the pub, walking out the door. Is
he still talking? Do you hear something?
Remember that fear we always had? Let's try and be better than that. And they're already Lisbon's already.
Oh, they're gone. They're gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
So after he stepped down as leader, he was given a cushy job as a law lord and was made Baron Carson. Baron Carson, law lord.
That sounds like a fake name.
Yeah, he just wrote it on business cards and handed it to young ones in pubs. But that June, he pretty much faded away from political life after June 1921. He officially retired in 1929. On his last trip to Northern Ireland in 1932, he got to see the unveiling of his own statue outside Stormont, which is a rare honour.
Does that mean he got 8 years of government pay without really doing anything?
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. He kind of was disillusioned at everything then and just sort of...
Not disillusioned enough to give up his post.
He had principles, just not monetary ones.
Yeah, the principal on his mortgage. This fucking shit has to be paid off. You think you put all the work to get to this position?
The statue is still there to this day.
But yeah, he wasn't really a fan of Northern Ireland afterwards. He's quoted as saying in his old age, "I fought to keep Ulster part of the United Kingdom, but Stormont is turning her into a second-class dominion." So sorry, he wasn't a fan of Stormont. He was still a fan of Northern Ireland, but he didn't like what was happening. Carson died 3 years later in 1935 in Kent, where he'd been living since 1921.
Yeah.
His body was transported by warship back to Northern Ireland, though, where he had a state funeral in St. Anne's Cathedral, and is still to date the only person to be buried there, where that man pissed on him.
Mm-hmm.
So they had a ceremony at his graveside where there was a silver bowl with soil from each of the 6 counties that was dropped into his coffin. The Irish Times ran an obituary for Carson in 1935, saying, "Edward Carson's career was one of the tragedies of Irish history. If he had been 40 years younger, Lord Carson of Duncarn might have been a British Hitler or even a Mussolini. As it is, he died at 81 after a life crammed with great achievement, yet strangely barren of great results." It ended with, "He was a great Irishman, he loved his country, and he gave the best that was in him in the service of a cause which he believed to be just." So when they were comparing him to Hitler and Mussolini, they meant in a nice way.
Should a weird term to use though, because barren of great results. He'd be thinking, "Yeah, I'm a baron.
Yeah.
Great results."
With great results. Yep. I read everything seems to be in order here.
Wait, how did they spell it?
Because in 1935, the Irish Times and a lot of people in Britain as well were looking towards Mussolini and Hitler and being like, "Those fucking boys, they're really getting the continent to shape."
Yeah, Daily Mail said they were a great bunch of lads.
Yeah.
Time magazine voted them Man of the Year.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, Volkswagen, great car.
Yeah. Snappy suits,
Yeah, that's true as well.
They were killing all the communists and socialists. It was pretty cool. So Carson is the champion of Ulster Protestants, but he spent feck all the time here. He was born in Dublin, lived in Galway, and spent most of his life in England. He didn't see himself as an Ulster man, and unlike many Northern Unionists at the time, he had more of an emotional connection with Ireland as a single entity. He was quoted as saying, "I am very proud as an Irishman to be a member of the British Empire." So that was more of his take on it. He wasn't a fan of the orange order either. He once said that the speeches reminded him of the unrolling of a mummy, all old bones and rotten rags. He was celebrated as being a great legal mind, but helped create and arm an illegal militia and form an illegitimate government. From that same Irish Times obituary, it says, when he decided to arm the Ulster Volunteers and when his lieutenants ran their guns in such spectacular manner on the Antrim coast, he hardly could have anticipated that his example would be followed very shortly by the political extremists in the south, which is just great. Whenever he illegally armed this militia with the wonderful splendour and grandeur, how was he to know that these fucking dirty bastards down south would copy on him?
Yeah, they're just looking at him going, that's a great idea.
Yeah, but when he did it, it was just and beautiful. When they did it, it was...
See, I wish I had known all this when I was like a little kid, because when people used to, obviously during the Troubles, when somebody would say, you know, and if you don't like it, you can fuck off down to the south. I wish I had known this, because then I would have just went, where Carson's from.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? Where Carson's from?
Yeah. Where that your hero is from?
Yeah, with that guy, the statue,
Yeah.
who never lived here, him. Yeah, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. So that's the end of old Edward Carson. What do you think of him now? I haven't heard it twice.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, it's been so long ago since
Yeah.
the first one. Well, you say that it's been a month.
6 weeks.
You've been doing a lot of drinking. Your brain's probably mush.
And also that night as well, Sunflower has some lovely cheap pints of Beamish.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That
and
was a
we'd-
big night.
Yeah, had we just been to Cork, or were we just back from Cork at that stage?
We hadn't
Gone yet. Maybe Beamish was on the mind.
Oh, you had the taste of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was great. We met some friends of ours that we made in Belfast, and do you know that video of the you owe me a tenner, dinkhead.
Yeah.
See, you get me stinking. The guy whose mother filmed that documentary was at the gig.
Fantastic. That is not, I mean, that's also not a historical document.
Oh yeah. It's taken from some BBC NI documentary that his mother had made.
Yeah. I mean, I think the whole thing with Carson is essentially, when it got to the point where he knew what he wanted, it's kind of like letting the handbrake off at the top of a hill and then going, I'm sure that'll just roll to a nice stop at the bottom.
I've done my
Oh,
piece.
still going.
Yeah.
It's gone. Oh, fuck, it's gone through a fence.
Yeah. He's kind of brought in.
Was anybody hurt? Just the population.
He was brought in as a great orator, and he really wanted Ireland just to be part of the UK. But when he wasn't getting any traction down south, instead of copping that was a bad idea, he went up the north and tried to get it from there.
I think I also like the idea of like a modern accent. Edward Carson coming when they're like, why didn't you just make him Prime Minister? And him being like, right lads, stop.
It's the
They're not going to listen to you.
It's the fucking 6 or nothing, right? Yeah, because there's footage of James Craig. I watched the video of James Craig, which is just very funny in modern times, where he's giving a speech outside Stormont, and there's no podium and there's no teleprompter, so he just sort of walks out and he's just standing on the steps with his hands in front of him, and it's like a wide shot, and he's just sort of like mumbling through whatever the hell he's talking about. It just seems very unprofessional nowadays, I suppose. But there's video of, you can hear him speaking, but there's no recording of Carson that's surfaced yet, even though it would have been common-ish. Yeah, but like he's around by the 1920s.
Yeah, there's got to be that.
Famous for
Surely
giving
there's got to be one of
speeches.
those like Pathé News reels of him
Yeah, of
somewhere.
course, which is where everything comes from back then.
Yeah.
It's Pathé News and C. Orvolds.
There has to be something of him, you know.
Yeah.
Eddie and the boys over in Belfast here today.
He could have been a case where he's like, if you're good at something, don't do it for free.
Yeah.
And he just knocked over mics every time someone was trying to get his vote, or he thought they were trying to steal his soul or something. Get that fucking witchcraft out of here. Fenian nonsense. But yeah, that's probably it. Thanks a million for entertaining us, Darren.
I had fun.
Yeah.
And thanks for Jordan for doing the live episode
Yes.
that we didn't record.
A big shout out to Jordan. But yeah, do you want to plug anything?
Do you want to plug anything?
Yeah.
The Sunflower Comedy Club in Belfast,
Yes.
which is on the last Sunday of every month. Get your tickets on Eventbrite. Search it online. And the Panic Station Comedy Club, which is in Newry,
Yep.
which ye boys are on in June.
June.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is last Saturday of every month.
Yes.
So, and then go follow me on the socials and you'll find all that information.
Yeah.
And we'll put up all of those in the post.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
this.
Much
Check all this
appreciated.
out.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's it. Good luck.
Shafter.
Shalom.